Hey everybody, welcome to My Green Pets. I'm William Green, and today I got a very special guest. I'm here with Art Chadwick, the owner of Chadwick and Son in the Richmond, Virginia area. Art, thank you so much for joining us today. Love
My pleasure.
to have you here. And wow, tell us a little bit about the business and what you guys have got going on over there.
Well, let's see. Chadwick and Son Orchids first started in the late 80s, but my father had been growing since the 1940s. So I'm actually second generation.
Oh wow. Okay. Tell us a little bit about the collection that you guys have got there. I mean, anybody who follows you guys on Instagram knows that every day there are spectacular plants in bloom over there, and would just love to know, like, I mean, how big is this collection, and what all can we find if we were to browse the aisles?
Well, let's see. My father had 800 Cattleya orchids in his collection when he died a couple years ago, and he left them to me. And it's a tremendous responsibility to keep these things going because many of them are over 100 years old. So every time one blooms, well, every single day, a different one blooms. So I post a picture of it on social media so that the rest of the world can see this stuff because you only read about it in books.
Right.
Nobody even knows that 1912 orchid is still around. And here it is in central Virginia.
Do you feel like there is increasing interest, kind of a steady interest in these plants?
Definitely increasing. People are longing for the old days, essentially.
Oh,
The new
really?
hybrids, the new hybrids, they're not appealing to the corsage market because there is no corsage market. So they're smaller and they're for windowsills, and people are like, yeah, whatever. We want the big, showy, outrageous, gaudy things that Mrs. Eisenhower used to wear. And so that's the kind of stuff that we have.
Oh, that's amazing. And I know that recently you had a show put together in England at the believe it's the Chelsea Flower Show.
That's
Maybe
true.
tell us a little bit. I mean, I wasn't even aware about what this, maybe tell us a little bit about what that show is, how you got to be invited to present over there. Yeah, just tell us a little bit about that.
The Chelsea Flower Show is one of the largest and most prestigious flower shows in the world, and it goes back to 1912. And we visited many years just as spectators. But last year, after getting to know some of the orchid people, they said, oh, look, there's the show chairman. Let me introduce you to the show chairman. Okay, let's go meet the show chairman. And so she said, oh, Mr. Chadwick, the big orchid guy from the US, let's go have tea. So we had tea, and I'm thinking, why am I having tea with the show chairman? She said, have you thought about being in our show? And I said, is that even possible? It's on another continent.
Yeah.
He said, well, just think about it. Well, we'll save a space for you if you decide to do it. So we thought about it. And the more we thought about it, I guess it is possible. We can't take our own orchids overseas due to export laws. So we would have to borrow plants over there. But we could certainly design the exhibit here and have it constructed. And then we come in at the last minute and put all the finishing touches in. And that's what we did. We had 7 grown adults in London for 2 weeks working on this thing. And after spending that much time in England, I feel like I'm a regular now.
Okay. That's amazing. So you were able to collaborate with local growers to get the plants together for this exhibit.
That's right, all Cattleyas. That was our thing. Cattleyas were practically invented in England. The first hybrids were made over there, but now they don't really grow them that much.
Oh,
But
wow.
they're big in the US. So our job was sort of to reintroduce the whole idea of Cattleyas back to the country that started it.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. And I've noticed that you have also had the opportunity to meet some very, very famous people along the way. There's always photos we see of you with presidents and first ladies and royalty. Uh, can you tell us how you got to that ability to be able to do that?
Certainly, orchids, open a lot of doors that regular flowers don't. And the whole idea of naming orchids after prominent women dates back to the turn of the century with the Victorians, essentially. And they came to the US and the early first ladies, Mrs. Herbert Hoover and Mrs. Bess Truman and all those people. Well, around the 1980s, I was reading old orchid magazines of my father's. And I said, gee, Dad, what's all this? Here's Jacqueline Kennedy with her orchid. Here's Pat Nixon with her orchid. What's that all about? And he said, oh, that was a big thing. Growers rushed to be the first one to name an orchid after a sitting first lady, but the tradition has sort of died away because corsages aren't being worn anymore.
Hmm.
Well, that was my cue to jump in and say, well, we really should resurrect this legacy because it's been going on for so long. We can't just let it die. And he was actually opposed to the idea because he said, oh, you don't want to miss business with politics. That's a bad idea. But it's really not about politics. So, I mean, every first lady gets one. So we've named the past six and been able to present the flowers mostly at the White House to the sitting first ladies.
That's amazing. And how is that generally received when you show up with this? And I assume when you show up, you've got one of the plants in bloom to present.
That's right, either the cut flowers or the plant in bloom. And they're very honored and flattered to have any flower named after them, let alone a hybridizer that's going through all these hoops, jump through all this security to get to them.
Do you have any idea what happens to the plants once you hand them over? Or do they go to the Smithsonian, botanical garden or?
That's exactly where they go. They go to the Smithsonian. So we donate one of each, not just the ones we did, but all the previous ones. We've donated them all to the Smithsonian. And they often pair them with First Lady dresses when they go on display to the public. So it's really quite a moving experience.
That's got to be really gratifying to have gone through that whole process of growing the plant, breeding the plant, selecting the one that you want, right? I mean, out of the ones that you germinate, how many do you look at before you decide this is the one that we're going to present?
Well, it's a long process. Cattleyas take 7 years to bloom from seed, and a lot of them just flat out die when they're little. But once they get
It's
to
good to
7 years,
hear. That's good to hear.
yeah, it's not just you. I mean, a lot of people kill orchids, but if you get it to the 7 year point and they're blooming, then you sort of look at it and study it. Is this really something? Is this really noteworthy, or is this just an average flower? So if it's really noteworthy, we set it aside for a special person, maybe an incoming first lady, or maybe Martha Stewart, or somebody who's really deserving of such a flower. So we always have a small stash ready to go.
Okay. Wow. Um, On your website, you've got, so this is just, anybody who's interested in purchasing Cattleyas, obviously you want to go to Chadwick and Son because they have got an inventory unlike any other. Can you tell us a little bit about, for example, when I go to your website, I see that there is a list of plants available. You can get divisions of some of these really nice old plants.
Right.
You have species as well as hybrids available. Um,
Yes.
can you tell us a little bit about how that inventory changes through the year?
Well, Cattleyas being so slow growing, and you cut one in two, and then you have two, and then you cut those in two, maybe a few years down the road, then you have four. It's a slow process. So we only have one or two of anything available at any one time. But there's maybe hundreds of different selections to pick from. Now, occasionally we go to the next step of cloning an orchid.
Hmm.
So when you clone an orchid, suddenly you have 1,000 of the same thing. But they too take 7 years to mature. So we can't tie up our whole benches full of little bitty plants. So we try to have a good mix of divisions and then some clones.
If someone saw an orchid that you posted on social media and, checked out your list and didn't see that particular plant on the list, is there any chance of being able to get a piece of that plant in the future?
Yes, certainly, because we have the mother plant. So that person could just email us and say, hey, that yellow one caught my eye. Do you have an extra piece? And we might say, well, maybe not this year, but probably next year we'll have one. And here's the price.
Do you keep kind of a running list, like a waiting list, or is it just better to just keep checking back?
Yeah, I mean, we do keep running lists. It's hard when you get a barrage of inquiries for some of these rare plants. And the prices can go outrageous. Some of the plants we put on eBay, believe it or not, and an old plant could go for several $1,000s out of bloom with just a few bulbs on it.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's really gotten crazy, I feel like in the past years. I feel like we've gone almost back to like that Victorian era where people were having these auctions and plants are going for thousands and thousands of dollars.
Right, right.
Have you noticed any trends in what people are asking for these days? I feel like, I was reading an American Orchid Society article from the I think it was the 40s actually,
Mhm.
and it was talking about Oh, well, that's just another species, and we're not interested in those anymore. Now we've got these beautiful hybrids that are just, they put any species to shame. But I feel like you really have people like myself that are really attracted to the species and really go for that wild look, that original, unique look that you kind of lose with hybrids.
Exactly. And so when people see a species listed in those old magazines, oh, they're so passe, but
Uh-huh.
they've really come back. It's fun to look at the old magazines and see the trends and things. The first hybrids, then the more mature hybrids, then the modern hybrids. And now it's back to the species. People want the species and the primary hybrids, which means two species put together. They want the very first beginnings of what an orchid hybrid is, and they'll pay a lot of money to get it.
I would imagine that they're becoming maybe not harder to find, but it seems like some of the classic varieties, species that were awarded, not long after they were first described to science,
Yes,
and people want those old pieces. And the hybridizing has gotten really, really good species these days that really
definitely.
show off the best stuff. Do you have
Yes.
any particular favorites?
Oh gosh. You know,
That's a hard one.
the species are special because those are the ones that grow naturally in the jungle. That's where it all began. And back in the earliest cut flower days, that's all the growers had was growing these species, Cattleya mossy in the spring, Cattleya labiata in the fall, Cattleya trianae in the winter. And that was what people wore every day as for their corsage wear. But now you've got primary hybrids and some of the later hybrids. It's nice to have a well-rounded collection, and you can do that with Cattleyas. You can have something in bloom every single day of the year if you stagger your collection correctly.
Oh, that's great. I bet that you actually, that's a good time to just mention that this book, this is the classic Cat List by Art Senior and Art Junior. Is that correct to
That's
say?
right. Yep, yep, yep.
And I've got my signed copy here.
Oh
And
boy.
in this book, you can find, in fact, they have published a calendar that shows you which orchids to buy in order to keep that collection blooming year round. It's really, really amazing. There's lots of growing information in here, historical information. Um, Art Senior wrote fantastic articles about all the species, including now they've updated it with the what used to be called the Lalias. Now they're the Brazilian Cattleyas. And
Right.
yeah, it's just a wonderful resource.
Yeah, the chart you're referring to is called the Cattleya wheel. And every month there's a different Cattleya species that's in bloom. And if you find that wheel, you can have as many as 4 or 5 species in bloom at one time. There it is, the Cattleya wheel. So if you just stick to that, you'll always have something in bloom.
That's great. And then the hybrids, some of them they just seem to bloom whenever they finish a growth. Just they don't have a particular timing.
Well, every Cattleya will bloom about the same time every year, but it might wait 6 months after that new growth matures, or it might blooms right when it matures. And each plant is a little individual in that respect.
Nice. Well, if you have anything, it looks like you might have some friends there with us that you could maybe see
Well, well,
what
yes.
they're.
So this one right here, this one is from the 70s. So gee, that's a modern hybrid by our standards.
Yeah, it's
But
just
it's
around.
but it's 60 years old in reality. And here it is blooming at the end of July and has for 60 years. This one right here, this one is from the 60s. This big purple. Can't you just see Mamie Eisenhower wearing one of these or Bess Truman? It just really lights up the room. So this plant has bloomed every July for 70 years now.
That's
And there's no
amazing.
reason why it shouldn't just continue on forever. And the fragrance, I mean, between these two, I'm practically delirious.
You're about to pass out.
Yeah,
Can you share the names? I'm sure our viewers would love to know
sure. Mildred,
specifically.
yep, Mildred Reeves is a 1976 hybrid, a classic semi-alba. And this one is, let's see, Irving Deutsch, which was a Hauserman hybrid, a Patterson hybrid from the 60s. They're not in, the companies aren't even in business anymore, let alone the hybrids. So if you can find one of these floating around, grab it.
Okay, so you're saying these are historic plants that were used in the cut flower industry,
Yes,
and now, whereas there used to be greenhouses full of them, now if you can find one, it's a rare thing.
exactly.
And what, tell us a little bit about the corsage industry. I mean, I think I would love to see more of that happening today. You know, I mean,
Hmm.
as things get more and more expensive, you know, I watched a video. It was a talk by I think his last name was Bradley. He's a grower in Texas, and
Yes.
he did a talk on white cattleyas, and he said that like you know, during the height of this corsage era, you could buy, you know, a white Cattleya orchid corsage on Fifth Avenue in New York for $25 in the 20s or you know, so I'm
Yep.
just it's tell us a little bit about just like how that happened, when was the peak, when did it kind of fade, and what can we do to bring it back?
Gosh, I'd love to bring it back. I get that question all the time. The corsage industry really started in the 20s and went through the 60s and sort of started fading away in the 70s and 80s. But if you had a special occasion, you could just cut off a bloom, put it in a little tube, put ribbon and netting, and pin it on, and you might get 3 days out of it: Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You keep it in the refrigerator at night, and it was a special. It added glamour to any occasion. My father always said, no two women want to wear the same corsage, just like they don't want to wear the same dress. So Cattleyas were perfect because every single flower is different,
Mm,
and you could really customize it with that ribbon and make it all your own.
that's great. Well, Art, thank you so much for talking with us today. Did you have anything else that you'd like to share with our viewers?
Well, since my father came out with that classic Cattleya book, which is now in its second edition, we came out with another book called First Ladies and Their Orchids: A Century of Namesake Cattleyas. So really, it's a companion book to the first book, and the two go side by side on your horticulture bookshelf.
I see. Okay. Is there some growing information as well, or is it
There
more like a
definitely is.
historical?
Yeah, and it's about the hybrids. So you get to see how these species were put together to make the big purples and whites we see today.
Okay. All right. Well, Art, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that maybe we can continue our conversation in the future with maybe some growing information or some stuff we can see what people want to hear. And I just really appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah, and if any of your listeners are ever in the Richmond, Virginia area, our greenhouses are open to the public 6 days a week. There's 13 orchid greenhouses you can wander through with or without accompaniment and see them
Oh,
all in blooming, from just babies all the way to maximum specimen plants.
oh, that's amazing. So 6 days a week, and this is the name of the town Powhatan, is that right?
Powhatan, Virginia, yes.
Powhatan, Virginia is where the big greenhouses, and there's two storefronts as well in Richmond.
Right in downtown Richmond, yes.
Okay. Yeah, if you're in the area, you definitely got to check those out. The storefronts are beautiful. There's always a beautiful blooming plants there. Yeah, definitely worth a visit. All right. Thanks so much, Art, and we will see you next time.
Okay, William, bye bye.
Take care.